I'm a chiropractor. I've been in practice for 33 years. And as I listen to the tapes every month and frequently listen to the tapes, I begin to wonder about the validity of the work that I do. I feel when I walk into my office and I work with patients that I'm good at what I do. And I know what to do. And I can guide them. And I feel like if I were a patient and came to me, that I would be satisfied. Yet I feel like I'm in this place between that I need to do something to promote myself as a physician for more patients to come to me and know about me, and also that if they just wanted to feel better, they just had to follow the teachings of Abraham. And so
Well, follow that out all the way, and none of you should be here today.
Yeah, and then I look at, well, I'm not doing well in my life if I were to evaluate where I'm at. And I was listening to a tape just recently where you were saying, be grateful for what you have, for how much you have, for how good things are for you. Your home, your car, your clothing, your things around you, all the things that you have manifested kind of thing.
What we are saying is, as you look at what is working, then you generate a vibration that says, my life works. And when the vibration within you is one that says, my life works, then in everything that you approach, your life works. But if you look at some aspect of your life that isn't working, and you spend a lot of time looking at that aspect that isn't working, then what you're emitting pretty steadily is, my life doesn't work. So now, the one area where it isn't working so well affects all the new stuff that comes, certainly, and even can begin to erode some of the things that were working, you see. You could have 99 things not working and one thing working. And you could focus upon the one thing that works in a really disproportionate amount of time. So that for a disproportionate amount of your life experience, you were saying, my life works, my life works, my life works, my life works. The other 99 things would fall in line. Or you could have 99 things working, one thing not working. Focus on the thing that isn't working, beat the drum of that, join groups about it, talk about it really often, get all the books on it, activate it profoundly in your experience, and let it be the representative of the vibration that is you. So when we say count your blessings or look at positive aspects, that's just about deliberately activating what's working, because when you do that, you get more and more and more and more of that. That's why the better it gets, 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 the better it gets. Or the worse it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets. But really, the better it gets is by far the dominant stream. It's amazing how well you do with as much pushing against, not you, but you, that you do. In other words, you got to accept that well-being is the order of this universe.
Yes.
Yes.
I do accept that, and I look at something that's eating away at me, which is, and of course, the moment that I say that, I know what I'm saying is, take that back, but
I'm going to go forward anyway.
But yes. The amount of this is where I want to resolve in myself. I'm looking at an enormous amount of debt that I have.
Now think about what you're doing.
I know.
You not only called it debt, you called it enormous debt.
And that's the truth.
Oh, it is the truth. We understand that. But
yeah.
You hear us playing with you that
yes.
There are a lot of things that are true. There are people who are thriving. That's true. There are people who are not thriving. That's true. There are people who are experiencing radiant health. That's true. There are people who are experiencing sickness. That's true. So what? There are things that I've experienced before. That's true. There are things that I didn't like that I experienced. That's true. There are things that I experienced that were wonderful. That's true. There are things in my life that are terrible. That's true. There are things in my life that are wonderful. That's true. So what? There are things I like to eat. There are things I don't like to eat. There are colors I like. There are colors I don't like. In other words, let's not debate whether it is or whether it isn't, because anything that anybody has ever thought is somewhere in someone's experience. Instead, let's talk about what you want to activate in your experience. Mm-hmm. Just because something is true doesn't mean you want to activate it in your experience. And just because you have lived it doesn't mean you want to activate it again. And just because you are living it doesn't mean you want to keep living it.
Right.
Ooh, that was really good. Did you get that?
Yes, it was.
So why will I keep beating the drum of this thing I do not want? It's like saying, universe, I don't want it. Give me some more. Universe, I don't want it. Give me some more. I haven't yelled uncle yet. Keep giving it to me. Keep giving it. No, I haven't reached my threshold of not being able to bear it yet. I can endure more. I can endure more. I can endure more. I can endure more. And fortunately, some of you come to breaking points where you say, no more, and you sort of give up. And in that moment, things start getting better for you. But you could start doing it right now by saying, no point in talking about and activating the vibration of not enough. Why not look at the aspects where there is enough and let that be the dominant vibration that I'm offering? So let us offer you some words here. And it is our plan to help you find the path of least resistance. So just sit and relax and play with us. There's no right or wrong in this. And we'll throw some sentences out, and you choose which of the sentences not is true, but which of the sentences feels like the path of least resistance to you. Which of the sentence feels the best to you as you hear it? I'm experiencing enormous debt from which I see no easy way out. I have enormous debt, but I'll find a way out of it.
Number 2.
Not a great deal of difference, but it was slightly softer. Sure. And from where you are, that might have even been a bigger jump than you're willing to make, but we went for it anyway. I know the potential for more income is there for me. I just haven't been able to figure out how to get it flowing. I'm looking forward to more income flowing into my experience.
Yes, that.
Subtle difference, but there is a difference, isn't there?
Oh, yes.
No matter how hard I try, I keep ending up in essentially the same place. No effort is ever wasted because I'm gaining clarity along the way.
Yes.
Even though I think I'm getting further ahead by the decisions that I'm making, when I analyze it, I really have not made any strides forward. In fact, I'm in bigger debt than ever before. I probably shouldn't make this debt issue the basis of my feeling of success.
Yes.
All companies who thrive are debt-free. A lot of thriving going on with a lot of debt. It's wrong for me to have debt. Debt in and of itself is not inappropriate.
Okay.
The world looks at me and feels scorn for the debt that I have. The world understands debt.
Yes.
Those who I owe are giving me a very hard time about the debt. Those who I owe will be pleased as they receive payment. I should turn this all around right now. I shouldn't have let it get this far. I'll turn it around bit by bit, and the journey will be great fun.
Yes.
Now, the thing that we're wanting to point out to you here is that nothing changed with your debt. And we know that if someone swooped in and gave you $1 million or whatever, that for a day or two you'd feel great. In other words, we know that there is relief. When you hit yourself over the head with a hammer, there is always relief when you stop. And we understand that if the debt would just evaporate, that you think that you would feel some relief. Esther has been very diligently pulling the figures together to give to the accountant for income taxes. And while her accountant has not called her yet, saying, if you don't get it to me today, we will not have enough time, Esther could feel that it was time and there was urgency within it. And so she applied herself very deliberately and completed it yesterday and put it in the FedEx envelope and sent it off. And as they dropped it in the FedEx box, Esther stood there expecting a rainbow to appear or music to sing down from the heavens. She thought her heart would jump with joy. She thought that the relief would be palpable. And she just sort of stood there and she said to Jerry, nothing. I didn't get anything. And Jerry said, what do you mean? Esther said, I thought I would feel huge feeling of relief. And we say, she was enjoying the process in a different way this year. In other words, she was not hitting herself over the head with a hammer this year as she has before. In other words, she did a better job of segment intending. She said, this is what I will do today. And she did her best to do each part. She did not let the big, unfinished thing loom in the way that she often has. She took it more in bite-sized pieces and actually enjoyed the journey, actually came up with clear ways of doing it, and is sure about what she has done than ever before, and left a traceable track about everything that was done in a better way than ever before. In other words, she was actually feeling quite invigorated. She was feeling very smart of herself, that she was able to figure it out, and she even wrote a new little program that made it easier as she went along the way. In other words, it was actually a much more fulfilling experience than Esther would ever want to admit that it was. In other words, it was something that gave her something to think about. It took her mind off other things. She was proud of the way that the staff and everyone had interacted with it. She was pleased with the processes and how it all fit together. She was actually pleased with the results. She was pleased that they had paid the estimated taxes appropriately. In other words, everything about it felt good. And as she stood there expecting to feel huge relief and didn't find it, we say to her, maybe this was not the struggle that it has been before. And that's what we're wanting to say to all of you about all of these things. Don't find a way to make these things that you've been defining as a struggle, not a struggle. Find a way to say, this is just something that I'm doing. This is my campaign for becoming debt-free. And no one's ever enjoyed a campaign of becoming debt-free who wasn't really under enormous debt. In other words, make a game of it. Make fun of it. See it as the process. We promise you that you never get it done. And don't let someone else's opinion of where you stand taint your opinion of where you stand. Continue to remind yourself that you are a very good person and that you always do what you say you're going to do and that you mean well and you always choose what is most appropriate from your perspective and that you mean to do the best for everyone and that you don't want to leave anyone holding the bag. In other words, keep reminding yourself that you are a stable, solid person, and as you keep activating that within you, you will find yourself having fun in the process of diminishing this debt. Now, a game that we have offered, and those who have followed it have found great success in this game. Get a columnar pad and make your lists of monthly expenditures. Not overall debt. Don't take the whole of the debt, even in any category. Just take the monthly expenditures and spread them across this columnar pad with the largest monthly outgo on the further left column and the smallest one on the further right column. So whatever is the biggest monthly payment, put it there. Even if you're behind, don't think about what is behind. Just think about the monthly promise, the monthly obligation, and put them in columns across your page. And then look at the one that is the smallest one, no matter what it is. If it's $100 or $20, it does not matter what the smallest one is. And say to yourself as you look across your columns, these are my promises, and I always keep my promises, and it feels good to keep my promises, and I intend to keep my promises. In other words, bring yourself into alignment, because we don't think you would feel good under any other circumstance from what we feel from you. And then look at the smallest one and say to yourself, and not only do I keep my promises, but in some cases I do even more than is promised. And when that smallest column comes due, pay it twice. In other words, pay it more than once. And then you begin to build on that. Not only do I do what I said I would do, in some cases I do more than I said that I would do. Now, sometimes people will say, well, Abraham, it seems a little silly that I would double that payment when I can't even make that payment. And we say, there is a vibrational thing that begins to happen when you begin to play this game. Because what you're doing is you're watching your columns disappear. It is our promise to you that as you work on that smaller one and that smaller one, before you know it, you'll have fewer columns across your page. And then it becomes a game of, oh, I can't wait for the bills to come. I can't wait for the bills to come because I want to see where I'm at. You get your bills out. You look in relationship to the column. It becomes a game. The debt becomes a game worth playing rather than something that you've been avoiding and something that you haven't wanted to think about. And when you begin to sort of tackle it and get involved in it and play the game, what happens is you click back into your vibrational alignment because this is the promise you intended to make. In other words, this is the promise that you made when you made those responsibilities. You never said, I'm going to accept these dollars from you and I'm going to pay them for a little while, but then I'm not going to pay them. You never said that. And if you find yourself doing that, that is bothering you. So when you get into this game, you begin to feel better. And then as people say to you, people who know of you, people who you have trained to know how you feel about this subject, as they say to you, how are you doing? You say, great. They say, last time I talked to you, you were really worried about money. You say, oh, that's over. They'll say, oh, what happened? Did you win the lottery? Did someone die? Did you get a big inheritance? And you say, no, I just got it under control. I'm back in charge. Things are lining up for me. You just begin practicing that. Things are lining up for me. No, I've got a plan. It's all working out. And what begins to happen is, once you get into that place, dollars that have been wanting to come in begin coming in. People that owe you money begin paying you money. New clients begin coming to you that weren't in the offing.